Welcome to part 3, and this is the last part of this webinar. I'd like to now introduce you to the OODA loop. And what the OODA loop is a strategy, a military strategy that was discovered by John Boyd. Now, if you'd like to learn more about it, because I'm only going to briefly touch on it, you can go to my good friend Lieutenant Fred Leland's website, lesc.net, and he has a wealth of information on there. Well, Colonel John 42nd Boyd got his nickname as a jet fighter pilot in that he was able to outmaneuver any other pilot within 40 seconds. Now, he was an absolute genius in that he was able to figure out that the way he did this is through what he calls the OODA loop. The OODA loop stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. And what he was able to determine was that if he could achieve these elements faster than his opponent, that he would always be victorious. Now, the OODA loop is being used as a strategy by military units, SWAT teams, and some police departments. And we could spend days, if not months, and even years discussing Boyd's concepts. But I wanted to show you that as I used it as a strategy for my program, when I looked at it, I began to dissect it. And here's what I found. And when we look on the left side, the side act side of the loop, here's where law enforcement and security have spent most of their time training. And hopefully we've studied and learned the laws, use of force, control tactics, defensive tactics, and how to effectively use a firearm. Now, these are critically important. And we also have hopefully done after-action reviews or debriefs of not only what was wrong, but what did we do right. Now, these are skills that utilize our professor for the most part, or the reasoning and logical part of our brain. Now, on the right side of the loop, the observe and orient, we have spent little, if any, time improving our skills. When I ask police officers, and think of this yourself, you call yourself a trained observer, but then ask, where have you been trained? And no one seems to have an answer, except to say, well, maybe on the job. Yet there's no consistency as to the type of observation or situational awareness training that's received, and for the most part, training is in pattern recognition. Now, pattern recognition is a subject unto itself, and it's very important, but it often takes years to acquire. Now, pattern recognition does have its pluses and minuses, and the reason for that is it's great to recognize a sequence of events that you've seen before, such as a known criminal tactic or behavior. But if the tactic or behavior is different or falls outside the box, you instantly have to reorient or adapt to a whole new frame of reference. Now imagine if a seasoned officer, and maybe even more importantly, a rookie, was able to increase the speed with which he or she could recognize a threat, and then be able to put this into a frame of reference, and then base it on recognizing a behavior that is aberrant or something that's different, and then become prepared. Wouldn't this make far more effective officers, and couldn't it possibly save lives? It could even serve as a force multiplier in this tight economy. So let me submit this to you. As you look at the loop, if you can't get the observe and orient side right, how in the world can you expect to get the decide and act right? You see, we can get an incredible tactical edge if we can learn to increase our visual acuity and observation skills and recognize our ability to use our intuitive and instinctive skills in critical decision making. Now remember, you are generally at a very distinct advantage when dealing with persons intent on committing terrorism or criminal behavior. The reason why is they already know what they're going to do or what they're about to do. Now you, on the other hand, either have to catch up with that person or be able to outthink, outsmart, and outmaneuver their behavior before it happens. So this is why I so strongly believe in rapid threat recognition and improving those critical thinking skills, and why they're so crucially important if we are going to really do the job to win the war on terrorism, defeat the gangs and drug cartels, and create safer communities. Now that being said, let's move on to the next exercise, which I call threat versus no threat. Now this is one of the later exercises in my DVD, and I'm going to just give you a sample of it. Now what I'd like you to do here is look at the images, and you're going to see 3 different images of people either holding a weapon, an object, or nothing. What I want you to do is to write L for left, C for center, or R for R of only those people who are showing an absolute threat. Let's begin. Alright, now if you found that difficult, that's good, because with a little practice you can increase your ability to quickly move your eyes across a scene and scan, and these are called saccades, eye movement, and be able to pick up the threats. It takes practice, but it can be done. Alright, in the next program, or next lesson, and this again is one that I have on my DVD. I'm just going to show you a little piece of it because I want you to start seeing how important it is to look at body movement. Now this is called the draw and the pick, and what's going on here is I want you to watch his hand as he reaches into his pocket to pull out a wallet. This is what I call the pick. Now watch his thumb. Now in this next picture, I'm going to show you him drawing a gun. Now notice his hand already is extended, his thumb is articulated out as he grabs the gun. Now see the difference, the comparison between the two? Drawing the gun, he has to articulate that thumb out, and when he goes to reach for something in his pocket, it's more of a pinching motion with his thumb and fingers. So if you can pay attention to this, this is what we call a pre-assault indicator. Now it's going to be in microseconds that you can pick this up, and it will give you a distinct advantage. Now going back to the OODA loop, this is in the observe and orient part. It's not in the decide and act part yet. We want to make that quick observation and then be prepared, orient, and then make our decision. Alright, what are the next steps that you can do to increase your skills and those if you're a supervisor who might report to you? Well, first off, a good exercise is when you're driving, look at the license plates of the vehicle in front of you and then quickly look away. Now try and do this safely, of course. Try and recall then, look back and see whether you were correct. And keep doing it over and over. Practice this when you're out on patrol, particularly if you're a passenger in a car. Watch these license plates and try and pick them up, and you'll quickly start to increase your observation and rapid recognition skills. Another thing you can do is when you're watching television, and particularly if you're watching police shows or action shows that have weapons in them, try and watch the whole show just watching the hands of the individuals and see what's normal and what's abnormal in going for weapons or reaching in their pocket to remove something else, very similar to the pick and draw. You can also watch just facial expressions and see whether you can see, turn the volume down on your TV, see whether you can determine what they're trying to express. Take advantage of these times when you're standing in line in a grocery store, or you're on public transportation, walking through a mall, or even in a restaurant. Study the people, their body movements, their facial expressions, and watch their gestures as they interact. Watch what's normal and what's abnormal. A particularly great place to do this, and I find myself often on flight delays and having to wait in airports. Take advantage of this, make it a training opportunity. Watch as people come up to the counter after a flight delay, how angry they are. Watch those expressions on the face, then watch those that are not so angry and what's normal and what's abnormal. As one of the greatest sages of all time said, you can observe a lot by watching. And this one I think Yogi Berra hit out of the ballpark. Now, let's recap. First, we talked about trusting your instincts, learning to develop that inner little voice, the hair on the back of your neck, when you get those signals. I then introduced you to my characters, and I hope I didn't insult anybody's intelligence, but I thought it important to try and help you understand our subconscious part of the brain. We did some rapid threat recognition exercises, and I gave you a taste of that, and I hope you'll continue to do them. We looked at the OODA loop as a strategy. And last is my website and my phone number and my email. And please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or comments. And I'd also like you to purchase my program, which I've tried to price as reasonably as I can, because I know officers today, many of them are buying this for themselves. And HSN is currently offering a special on it through their website. What it is a DVD and 14 lessons, and I've included a workbook with it that you download. And so please take a look at that, and I would hope you would practice, because I truly believe in this. All right, last, I'd like to make this comment. I recently read that the Police Executive Forum had done a study that indicated that many police departments have reduced their budget, but what really struck me was that 68% have reduced or discontinued training completely. Now, I find this to be absolutely appalling. And the reason why is there's not a sports team nor an athlete that would not train or practice before the season or a game and expect to win. And the consequences for law enforcement and Homeland Security are far more ominous and no comparison to sports. Yet we seem to find the time and the money to support athletes and pay them ridiculous salaries as we cheer on these home team heroes. Now it's time for us as Americans, our business leaders and our politicians, to reevaluate and recognize our true priorities. We must realize that the real heroes are you, our first responders and security professionals who are attempting to protect our homeland and our communities 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's not only our duty, but our survival as a nation and as a free society to depend on preparing you and all first responders and security professionals for the incredible challenges you face with the potential of terrorism and the increase of discord and violence. Now, I'd like to read a poem to you that I wrote for a friend of mine that was going over to Iraq, but it truly sums up my feelings for each of you. And I call it the Ode to the True Hero, and it goes like this. Beware of the sights that no one sees. Beware of the sounds that no one hears. Trust your instinct to give you the cue. Believe in your heart. You know what to do. Prepare to act when others will freeze. To neutralize the threat is what the hero will seize. For that moment in truth, that split second in space and time, the true hero will survive or sacrifice life to save yours and mine. I want to thank you for listening, and may God bless and protect you all.